Namaste. Welcome to Tree Post Cooperative Podcast, where we are bringing the world to our community and our community to the world. I'm Jay, and this week we're joined by community member Ash Stevens, who has a fantastic and wonderful story to tell us. So this one's going to be exciting. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you.
And, like we talked about a little bit before the show started, you've got a great backstory that I'm sure everybody's going to be interested in hearing. So I'll let you jump right into that and, rock it till the wheels fall off.
I will say, the first part of my story is not terribly interesting, at least not to me. So I'm from Colorado Springs. I like to say that. I'm not a native, unfortunately, as hard as I would want to be. Because my mom was in the military, so we're kind of back and forth between here and other places. Like, my early childhood, I lived here, then I moved to Japan for 4 years, and then I came back for middle school. But I've basically lived on the southeast side of the Springs my entire life. And like I said, I wasn't doing too much when I was younger. I was an introverted child. I played a lot of video games. That was basically my life up until junior high. In junior high, I joined band. I was given a choice between PE or band, and I didn't want to go in the locker rooms for PE, so I was like, I'll be a band student, which is kind of a random way to get into that. But then I've been playing instruments basically my whole life since middle school because of that. So I've been a musician since 7th grade, and then in high school, it was band, video games, and that was it. In high school, one of my teachers came up to me and asked me if I wanted to be in track. And I told him no, because to me, track and field is like running around a million times and getting tired. And I'm a heavy set person, and I've had asthma, so to me that was like, I'm not doing that. But then another coach came up to me and said, hey, you can be a thrower, you can throw things, and you don't have to run, which was the big selling point. I just didn't have to run because I hate running. So I ended up doing track, trying it, told him I'd try it for a week. If I didn't like it, I quit. Turned out I was actually really good at track. So good that during the course of my high school career, I won 2 state championships in the discus, and I got 2nd place in shot put. And those 2 things were enough, along with music, to get me a track scholarship to go to Western State College in Gunnison. They changed the names now. It's like Western Colorado University. And I ended up going to college there on a track scholarship and doing music, which is what I ended up getting a bachelor's in. I have a bachelor's in music education with a minor in political science, which is something I can go on about later. And then I ended up having a very successful track career. I won 2 national champions in the discus. I'm a 4-time All-American. Currently, I still hold, and it's been like a decade, I still hold 3 of their school records. So basically, I've been a musician and an athlete up to this point, but people don't really know me for that. They know me for other things. So sure. We can talk about that.
All right, I appreciate that. So we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about another meaningful part in your story, which I found fascinating too, because I just kind of learned today how you got into it. But we're going to talk about the LGBTQ plus task force over at NAACP when we come back, so you guys stay tuned. And we're back. Thank you guys for rocking with us. So we were talking about how people kind of just know you for what you do now, right? And for the people who have met you pretty recently, they know a version of you, which is not how you started out. So if you want to kind of jump into that and let us know where this all came from.
Yeah, so people usually know me now because first, I'm loud on Facebook. I like to argue with people with politics and all that type of stuff. And they also know me because I do go to a lot of protests, a lot of political events, because that's where my passion is. So especially last year, if there was any protest, I was there at it, in the middle of it. And then a lot of people know me for being super queer. Because every time I go to a place, I have my rainbow flag on me. I have my rainbow shoes. I used to wear a lot of unicorn shirts, not so much anymore. I need to get back on that. And just being super out and queer and not really caring. And that's the part that that's the part that happened recently.
Okay.
Because up until like 3 years ago, I was actually closeted. I was not openly queer. I never talked about anybody being queer. People who would ask me, I wouldn't admit it. So I didn't come out as queer. I came out as gay first until like 2017. It was like the day before my birthday, which would surprise a lot of people, because if you see me now, you think, oh wow, I'm very gay and queer, and you can see it from a mile away. But I was very closeted for most of my life, and part of it came from growing up in the Springs, because this is a very conservative place, that in the military, and I didn't have a lot of positive queer influences in my life. It was all negative. So to me, it terrified me to be queer, so I kind of internalized that and basically would never talk about it, would never admit it. Didn't like to hang out with anybody who was queer. I couldn't even watch like TV shows or would admit to it, because that's how deep the whole internalized homophobia was. And that happened all the way up until college. In college, I had a few queer friends, which they'll tell me later that, they knew I was queer, they just didn't tell me. Right. Kind of when I was like, we all know, but you don't know, but we're not going to say it because we didn't want to scare you off. But, so I kind of like opened up a little bit in college, still wasn't dealing with being queer or anything like that. It's just, I have queer friends now and I hang out with them and that's it. And I always had like interested in queer things, and like I was always watching gay videos on YouTube. So it was kind of this like, I was hiding it. I was never out in public about it. I loved this stuff, but I would never admit it. And it wasn't up until I was like that up until about 2012, actually a little bit later. Because I'm a weightlifter now, and I went to a weightlifting gym. And two, who I consider now really good friends, some of my best friends, they were queer and they were open about it. And everyone knew and no one cared. And to me, that was super important, because up until that point in my life, I hadn't ever seen that. It was always negative, something to be afraid of. If you ever came out, there'd be negative consequences. And now I'm watching two people who are very queer who didn't care. And that was like the beginning of me trying to accept who I was and being more open about it. And that was 2012. It took me till 2017 to get to the point where I actually said it out loud and said, hey, yeah, I don't like guys. I like girls. I'm gay. And that was super hard for me. I actually had a mental breakdown over that. But eventually, like, I came out to my friends.
So yeah, I'm sorry. Let me just jump in with a quick question, because I do want to, and also on the mental health side, if you feel comfortable, can we talk a little bit about just like the process of going through what you described as a mental breakdown? But can we talk a little bit about the stages of it, and then how you ended up dealing with that? But my first question before that was, did you have an idea or a feeling, as far as you can recall, when you were younger, about how you would like to present yourself to the world?
Yes and no, because I didn't think. I mean, I felt like there's something there, but I didn't know exactly what it was. All I knew, for me, it just was always just a fear. I didn't want people to think I was gay. That was it. It wasn't so much that I actually thought I was, even though apparently I must have been if I had the fear. I just didn't want people to see me that way, so I just worked really, really hard to hide it like any way possible, because when all you get is negative images your whole life, there's nothing positive, especially grow up in Colorado Springs. Like, there's no positive influence. There was no real community that I knew of. So it's like everything is negative. I don't want that. So I guess the way I tried to present myself as the time is just kind of nothing. It's like, I don't like anybody. I don't have sexuality or gender or anything like that. I'm just, I'm just Ash, or Ashley at the time. I say my legal name, but it's like, that's who I am. So I guess wasn't trying. I guess I tried to be a little girly at times when I felt that I had to. For the most part, I just presented how I want to, dressed how I want to, which is I was an athletic person, so I dressed athletically. But there are times I did have to try to dress as a girl, because that's what I thought I was supposed to do, which was very uncomfortable for me to do that. It felt, I don't know, it's just like you have clothes on that don't quite fit right, so you're always just kind of like this. That's how I felt every time I dressed as a female, tried to present that way. I tried to, because I thought that was what I had to do. Like, if I went to an interview, I always wore heels, always wore a nice blouse or something like that. I always wear pants, because I was never wearing a dress. I just wasn't doing that. But I always tried to present that side. I didn't like it. I hated it. And it wasn't until I came out that I was like, I wasn't stuck in that box anymore, and I didn't have to present certain ways. And I was like, it took me a bit. I was like, yeah, I like wearing suits. I like, wearing suits and slacks and nice, men's clothes and all that stuff. But that came, like, later, I guess.
Okay. So that mental health thing was definitely very important to me, and I was just kind of like trying to quickly process that, but I want to like glaze over that. How did you feel about?
It was just always something in the back of my mind, especially when I saw, like, queer stuff. I always felt like I had to police myself on that, because I didn't want to present as queer. So if I saw something I thought was gay, I would get super excited, but that's something I always kept at home. It's like, oh, I love, like, the ballroom scene and, like, Paris is Burning and stuff like that. So I'd be watching voguing stuff, but I was like, that's something I kept to myself, and I never expressed that. Or I would, like, watch these videos of people coming out, and I love those things, and I always, like, at home I'd be excited, but in public that was something. So I guess everything was technically in the closet. Everything was I keep things to myself. I guess ended up with me being super quiet. I never, because I was never really outspoken or outgoing or anything like that. And I realized over the years that it's probably because I was hiding so much that I wasn't able to be an open person. So people who knew me in college would say I was, like, super quiet, and I would never say more than, like, a couple words at a time. Like, maybe 3 words, and that was it, and I would never talk. And to me, I didn't feel terrible at the time, because that's just how I was. And, like, so it wasn't so much a mental, like, it messed with me, because I trained myself to be that way. So it's just like, this is normal, when it clearly wasn't normal. And I didn't realize that until after I came out. When I finally came out, it was like this weight that had been sitting on me. Like, I guess I shouldn't say I was always depressed, but I was always never really happy either. But to me, that felt normal. It's like, oh, it's just, life is just boring and just blah, and there's nothing that excites me. And, like, when I came out, this weight had came off, like anxiety and all that stuff, that I didn't realize it was there until I had done it. And after I'd done it, it's like, I just felt lighter. And I felt just genuinely happy. My mental health just got better from doing that. And I hadn't realized that toxicity and that weight had been on me until I did that. I guess it's hard for me to explain it now, because I'm still it's only been like 3 years, so I'm still processing everything. But guess I'm trying to think back because there was moments in college where I would panic, and it would mainly come when I was getting close to the line of people thinking that I was queer. There's always this like, I always kept things hidden, so I was kind of distant, but like I'd have queer friends, and all of a sudden have to worry about, I was like, oh, what are people going to think if I'm around a lot of queer people? Or I was actually in the Spectrum, which was the gay club in college. I would go, but I would never tell anybody because there would be this sense of panic. It's like, if I tell people I'm going to this thing, then people will think that I'm gay, and I wasn't ready for that yet, and then I would start to panic. Even my first Pride, which was in the Springs, I want to say might have been 2012. It took a lot for me to go to Pride, because I would freak. I was like, somebody's going to know me, someone's going to see me, they're going to think I'm queer. And because I had to talk myself into it to the point where, like, I snuck out in the morning so no one would see me sneaking out to go to Pride, because I had, like, one rainbowy shirt. And then when I got there, I, like, take everything off. And I went to Pride, and I felt better because I didn't have to, like, hide anything. I didn't have to think about it. But then when I went back home, I was like, oh, shove everything back in the closet. Don't think. So I had those moments, which, well, it's hard to be in a closet like that where you're constantly like policing yourself. Sometimes you get kind of used to it because that's just the way your life's gone. But the moments where you have time to kind of be more relaxed and then have to take it all back in and don't express it, that is really hard to do.
Yeah. So, firstly, thank you for sharing that because, hey, you know, some of those very private moments in our lives are not easy to share. And community, if you watched previous episodes where other guests have come and shared some very intimate moments of their lives, I hope you are getting a chance to kind of feel that connectedness. I hope something in there was a parallel to your story that helps us all to understand each other better as humans first, and then, you know, all that other stuff is secondary. So getting into the LGBTQ plus task force, my question would be before you, or rather, let me let you explain it first what it is, and then I'll reserve my question because I do have a question about how much you're able to be, I guess, stay passionate about it, considering all that you've been through, and like, does it wear on you to do the kind of work that you do? So first, I'm gonna let you familiarize the community.
The LGBTQ task force is basically our queer committee within the NAACP. It's something that I started last year because when I joined the NAACP, I was actually the chairperson of the Civic Engagement Committee, so basically voting and all that stuff, and that was my job. Because I do have a passion for politics, but I had a greater passion for LGBTQ rights. But at the time, there wasn't really any way for me to do that directly. It was just maybe I would just talk about it on the side. It's like, yeah, I'm doing civic engagement, but these are all the queer things that I worry about, which is why I should be civically engaged. And I was kind of trying to find some ways, like, is there a way that I can do advocacy for the LGBTQ community within the NAACP? So I actually looked it up. I typed in LGBTQ, you know, NAACP, and if you do that, even today, it turns out the national branch has an LGBTQ task force. They've had 2 town halls, just basically covering being black and queer and our particular issues. And I looked at that and it's like, I want that. That'd be awesome. That'd be like, basically everything I want to do activism wise would be in that. So I went up to my vice president, and I was like, this is something I'm looking into. I think we should have a queer committee. I mean, we kind of queerness, like advocating for queer people is something that NAACP should focus on, and at the national level we are focusing on it. So I didn't see a reason why we couldn't have it here. So I think one day I just told them I'm just gonna have a committee, and I just started it. Just we have a committee now, so it's that's how it worked.
So yeah, if we can kind of circle back to
So basically, the goal for the committee is for one to represent our LGBTQ members, because we have plenty of members in the NAACP who are queer, and I feel like they should be represented, and to make sure that their issues are represented with the NAACP. So that's the first goal. But the second goal is like to advocate to people in the NAACP who aren't queer, to get them to know our issues. Because, I mean, unless you're directly involved in the work, you're not going to know what's really going on in the community. So one of my jobs is to, like, bring up topics, like, hold, like, events, like going on Facebook and bring up, hey, did you know that this queer person was a civil rights leader too? Just kind of giving them more information on the community. And then the last goal is just to go out into the community itself, like Colorado Springs, and just be another advocate for LGBTQ rights, especially centering queer people of color, because we do have queer groups, but not a lot of them kind of focus on queer people of color and our issues and like with our particular viewpoint. So that's something that I'm trying to do with this committee.
All right. And so where for you, if at any point, is it, personal? Where for you is it at any point challenging? And where is it for you at any point rewarding? And I'm just kind of trying to get an idea of, so since you've been able to participate on this level and advocate on this level, has it had deeper meaning for you? And, are those things present that,
Yeah, they're always present, because just LGBTQ advocacy, that's where my passion is, even before I was out of the closet. I always wanted to help my community in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And honestly, that was the direction I was going into before the NAACP. That's kind of what I wanted to do, because even before the NAACP, I volunteered for Inside Out Youth Services, which is a youth organization that deals with LGBTQ like youth. That's what they do. They help them out in the city. So I had volunteered with them first. I was trying to find something that would like get me into advocacy work, but unfortunately Inside Out didn't work just because of my work schedule. So I had been looking for anything I can join that would allow me to like advocate for LGBT community. That's what I wanted to do with my life. And so this committee allows me to do that. It allows me just to show my love for the community, advocate for them, speak for them when they might not be able to, because I do have privilege in that point. I'm not really concerned about being kicked out of my house or really losing my job or anything like that. So I am able to speak on those issues without having to worry about in the back of my head what's going to happen to me. So I guess it's always going to be personal, because I'm a queer person of color. So anything having to do with queerness and being a person of color is just going to be personal. There's no way I can escape that. And I don't know, I'm just passionate about the work and just letting people know about our issues. And I guess I said this earlier, I do have an education background, so I do like to educate people, and that's just another passion. I like to be able to tell people about queer topics. I'm the person that if you had a question about queerness, and if you asked me, I would actually be excited about it. It's like, oh, let me tell you these 50 different things. I might be over enthusiastic about it, but that's kind of the stuff I love to do. So
okay, all right. Definitely appreciate your story, your work, your passion. I'm glad that you are seizing an opportunity to get out and get involved. for the issues that matter to you. And that's, I hope, that community that gives us a little more inspiration too to keep going with whatever you're passionate about. Get out there and get educated about it. Start advocating. Start communicating and getting together with like-minded people. And so we're going to take another break. And when we come back, you've got some things to plug. So we've got some interesting things lined up. Community events coming up that you guys need to know about, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. I'm going to let you plug away some community events, and then I'll let you guys know how you can support this content.
So right now for the LGBTQ task force, I have a couple events coming up. So on June 6th, I am actually doing a presentation at the Chinook Center's People's College. It will be about LGBTQ activists, what they're doing in the city, and what are the challenges we have in the city being LGBTQ. And July 12th, actually 11th and 12th, is Pride Fest, which you should go because it's a good time. And also, NAACP will be at Pride this year. We plan on tabling and also being in the parade. That's the goal. So watch out for that. And then also, I will be putting on the Trans Visibility March, which is October 3rd this year. And this is something that I did last year that kind of is at the same time as the Trans Visibility March of Washington, D.C. It's a sibling march. And it's just important to get out and support our trans community that's here in the city. So look out for that. Details will be coming on that. So other than that, if you want to see what the task force is doing, we do have a page on Facebook. It's the NAACP LGBTQ plus task force. Or you can just follow the NAACP page of our local branch, and I will be posting things there. And as for me, I tend to post things publicly on Facebook because I don't have any privacy anymore, it seems. So you can actually follow Ash Stevens on Facebook, and I talk about LGBTQ issues, but I just talk about politics in general, and sometimes some music and weightlifting stuff too. So that's it.
All right. So a good conversation, and a lot of those points, community, I guess we will be talking about more in the future. So definitely stay aware, stay informed. And if you'd like to support this content, you can do so by donation, by purchase, or by becoming a co-owner of Tree Post Cooperative. So this is actually a cooperative community platform that you can co-own, and we encourage you to do so. And we're going to wrap it there. And as always, we'd like to remind you to think creatively, act cooperatively, and build community.